Facebook Live report starts now.
What's up, guys? Drew Ammon alongside Jason Carroll here from Bridgestone Arena, and this is our pregame show getting set for the Commodores and Razorbacks, and it'll start around 8:30 here tonight from Music City.
Yeah, it could be a little earlier. We'll see. This game's going pretty quick, so.
At the moment, Georgia on top of Ole Miss, 66-53, and as I mentioned, inside the press area here, so a lot of media members alongside, so we'll continue with this pregame show and talk more about a Vanderbilt team that's playing well of late, Jason. And just your quick take on the Commodores having won back-to-back games.
Yeah, they won at Alabama. Arkansas won at Alabama, so there's a little bit of common there. And then South Carolina beating them at home, so they're playing well right now.
They are, and you look at what they did against South Carolina. Frank Martin talked about the fact Vandy put up the 83 points and showed a lot of respect towards the Commodores for the way they played. They're a team that's playing very fast right now. It's a team that Eric Musselman talks a lot about in terms of the various weapons they have. They're led by Saban Lee, who was just voted second team All-SEC. And Lee led them in scoring in the game in Fayetteville earlier this season, January 15th. And speaking of that game, that was a game Arkansas won by 20, 75-55. But let's get some sound now from the guys talking about the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Yeah, I think when you have young players, obviously Pippen's a freshman, so he's going to get better and better and better. And Saban Lee is a guy that's a premier scorer. He's got NBA speed, strength, athleticism. He can draw fouls. He can tomahawk dunk on you, and he's a threat from 3-point range. Pippen, is a guy that draws fouls in the lane, can make a three. Deso's a guy that can make a three and a young developing player. And Coach Stackhouse, a really competitive guy. I think they run really good quick hitters, which is what you would expect from a coach that played in the NBA and coached in the D League. And I think the one thing that the D League does is injuries aren't going to affect a coach like him, who's used to roster flexibility and so forth. And I think he's done an incredible job. You listen to Coach Frank Martin talk about how Vanderbilt's much improved from their last game, because we've told our team over and over how they're a different team and how much they're improved. And then we just let them listen to Frank Martin's press conference, so they didn't hear our voice saying it. So they hear another coach in our league talking about how much Vanderbilt's improved, and obviously they get to sleep in their own beds, and there's a comfort level playing in an arena that's 7 or 10 minutes away from their campus.
To be honest, they have a lot of good guards that can get down the lane and pump fake and do a lot of good things. So, as long as we just stay in front of them and continue to play defense and stick to the game plan, then we're going to be all right. So, and we on a neutral site, so it's different. We just got to come ready to play.
It's a very good team, actually. They've improved tremendously. Actually, got Saban Lee putting up 30 points. Scottie Pippen Jr. putting up 30, 20 balls. And got Evans doing the same thing. So it's they were way different from January than they were now. So I guess we got a little competition.
Getting any kind of production from the bigs tomorrow night, how big is that going to be for you?
Quite honestly, they've kind of they've played very small of late. They've moved guys up one position. They have not been starting Obina inside the last couple games. Albert's moved into the starting lineup at that 4 spot. Deso's moved over to the 5 spot. So I think it gives us a little bit of flexibility from a roster standpoint, maybe starting lineup. I think that for most of the SEC season, we've kind of faced 2 bigs. This is a team that plays a little bit faster, maybe has a little bit more 3-point shooting, a little more guard-oriented, space the floor. Similar to maybe the way Alabama plays and maybe the way that we play as well.
How important is it to just take this thing one game at a time and make sure you recover quickly on the backside?
Oh, it's always good to have one game at a time, just Vanderbilt's the first game. We're not thinking about nobody except Vanderbilt. And right now, only team on our mind is Vanderbilt. And just going in today in practice, all we worry about is Vanderbilt. We ain't worried about nobody else, and it's one game at a time, like Coach Mudd says.
Extremely difficult task here in Nashville, Jason, to try to win 5 games in 5 days to clinch that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, and this is a team searching for win number 20 on the season overall tonight. Arkansas Razorbacks facing a Vandy team just 11-20 overall.
Yeah, it is going to be a difficult challenge, and I think Arkansas is going to have some struggles in this game. And can they withstand some of those droughts that they might have? And I know Coach talked about, how they're going to play a smaller lineup. Arkansas's got to stay out of foul trouble with their guards tonight.
Absolutely, and you look at those guards and what they did to Arkansas, hanging around and making it difficult on the Arkansas defense to the point where Vandy was certainly in that game after one half there at Bud Walton Arena. But that game really at this point, for all intents and purposes, is kind of null and void.
Yeah, I mean, we talked at dinner tonight. Reggie Chaney had one of his better games. He's kind of disappeared lately. But yeah, that was 2 months ago. So both teams are different. Arkansas's at full strength, so hopefully that kind of plays into their favor today, and they move on and face South Carolina tomorrow, who's probably not going to be at full strength.
Let's talk more about the Vandy guards, because you look at Scottie Pippen Jr., he's somebody who had 11 points in that game in Fayetteville January 15th, and when you look at the way he's going to evolve, being just a freshman right now, and Musselman talked about it, and then you look at what Saban Lee brings, this guy who can tomahawk jam, he can dribble, drive, and cause so many problems with the overall just penetrating, dishing, just creating so much offense for your team.
Yeah, I mean, they've got all kinds of weapons, and they've got a big guy who can step out and shoot. So Arkansas is going to have, they have to stretch their defense, and we'll see how they play. Jimmy Witt could be a big factor tonight.
And then you look at this Arkansas team, outside of the fact that Jimmy Witt had 30 points in that game against Vandy. Mason Jones just voted SEC AP Co-Player of the Year. He's riding high. What about his last 4 games? It's been incredible what he's done.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a really good season, and you hope that continues. And we asked him about his drive after, not being named Player of the Year by the coaches. I think, he could come out and have a big tournament if they can stay around for a while.
30 points for Mason Jones against Texas A&M. That was a game that Arkansas lost on the road 77-69. So, Arkansas is chomping at the bit to get back out there tonight, playing in the nightcap against Vandy. And then you look at what Mason did prior to that, 36 points against LSU. You saw what Jimmy Witt did against LSU, 26 points, 15 rebounds. Arkansas has had to play with such an undersized group all season, but you look at the uniqueness, if you want to call it that, in terms of the matchup tonight, the fact that, as he mentioned, Vandy is going to start more than likely 4 guards and play 1 forward.
And that's what Coach likes to do. So there'll be an opportunity for all 5 of those guards to get a lot of playing time tonight. And, again, they got to stay out of foul trouble, because we saw what happened at A&M. They get in foul trouble, and they get nothing from their bigs, and they get beat. So that's going to be a big key tonight. I don't know, what the starting lineup's going to be just yet, but you figure it's going to be 4 guards and probably Adrio or Ethan.
And let's kind of segue from that. Adrio Bailey, 0 points against A&M. Silla the same.
Silla, you haven't gotten anything from all year. Right. Bailey's been hit and miss, and Reggie's been kind of non-existent. So it's really coming down to, can Adrio step up in his opportunities, and what does Ethan do with his opportunity? Because he's played well at Bud Walton, played poorly away from Bud Walton. So which Ethan do you get tonight? And again, I don't know how much those guys are going to play if Coach goes with a 5-guard lineup for 30 minutes, but we'll see. I mean, hopefully, for Arkansas' sake, if you're going to win the game, you get out to a big lead and you can kind of hold it and get some of these guys off their feet and save them for tomorrow.
Let's close with that in terms of Eric Musselman talking about how each game takes on its own identity, because we saw the game against Vandy, the way it went in the second half, and Arkansas was able to pull away and win by 20, but this is a Vandy team that can score in high volume. They've certainly done that of late. Wins over Alabama, South Carolina. At Alabama, they tied a season high with 15 threes, so they can shoot it from 3. They'll penetrate, they'll score in transition, and Arkansas is just one of those teams where that being undersized, last year they weren't as undersized clearly, but you saw against Florida that rebounding played such a big role in that loss of Florida, as Arkansas was one and done in the 2019 SEC tournament. What do you make of, hey, can Arkansas withstand a particular run tonight and still be okay against a Vandy team, knowing the history between these two teams?
The way they play defense, they can, because they've gone through some offensive droughts, but they've still hung in games because of the defense. So I really do think that they'll have enough at the end, but you just never know how hot Vandy's going to be. But yeah, the defense, I think, will keep them in the game as much as they need it to tonight. You know, we've had a lot of questions about tickets and the whole issue. I mean, we've talked about it. I fully expect this to be the only night of the tournament where fans are going to be in the building.
Yeah, that's the thing with the way the coronavirus is progressing and what we saw in terms of the announcement this afternoon from the NCAA. The NCAA tournament will not feature fans in the arenas, but all we know right now is the SEC will go on as planned with the way the tournament is formatted tonight, and then tomorrow they'll kind of regroup and reevaluate whether fans will be allowed in the building for round 2 action. But in the meantime, Arkansas is a team 19-12 on the season, set for round 1 against Vandy, 11-20, and we'll see if Arkansas, as an 11 seed in this tournament, can move on to round 2. We'll see, you guys.
And make sure tonight, if you're not watching the game, follow us on Twitter, and we'll update you if there are any changes to the tournament on whether or not fans are allowed into the building, if you're planning on coming to Nashville, or any other developments that come with that.
See you guys.
Thank you.